In today's video, we have some interesting names on the waiver wires. We have 4 NHL players on waivers. We have a signing in Chicago and an update on the 2021 NHL Draft. We'll get into all the latest coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to discuss today. Let's start here with the Chicago signing. The Blackhawks have signed a 2018 7th round pick who had been playing college hockey in the NCAA for Colorado College, and that's Josiah Slavin. He's a center iceman, decent height at 6 feet tall, a little slim on 161 pounds, but certainly a player who looks to be pretty decent. Obviously, he is the brother of Carolina Hurricanes stud defenseman Jacob Slavin. So obviously, good DNA there in that family when it comes to producing hockey players. Not quite the level that Jacob Slavin is, but still an interesting prospect for the Blackhawks. A 7th round pick don't often get signed or get much of an opportunity. But the fact that he's worked hard in the NCAA the past couple of years and earned a contract with the Blackhawks is certainly a good accomplishment. And we'll see what he can become from there. Now, I do believe for the remainder of this season, so that his entry-level deal doesn't technically kick in until next year, I believe they're sending him to their AHL affiliate in Rockford on an amateur tryout for right now to see how he does and get started there. And then his ELC could possibly kick in next year. It depends on where he ends up getting placed. It could slide, of course, if he ends up in the minors, which is a real possibility. He's 22 years old as well, so his ELC would only be for 2 years instead of 3 due to his age, but it's still a decent, interesting college signing there for the Blackhawks. Now, as I mentioned, we also have an update on the 2021 NHL Draft today from NHL insiders Chris Johnson and Elliot Friedman, both reporting on the fact that they've been able to confirm through the NHL that the draft will be taking place as originally scheduled in July. It will not be bumped to either later this year or all the way to next summer, which was being contemplated by the league and several NHL GMs were kind of pushing for, obviously due to the pandemic and a lot of junior and lower level leagues not being able to play full seasons or very limited amounts. And obviously some leagues have played more than others. It's not really a even playing field out there for some prospects to be able to be noticed as much as others. So many GMs were hoping that the draft would get pushed back with the hopes that the NHL scouts would be able to resume a little bit more normal work activity this fall. And obviously junior leagues from around Canada and the US and obviously across Europe would be able to hopefully start normal seasons in the fall. Even if it was only pushed till December, that they would still have an opportunity to showcase their talents again, and not only for themselves and where they get drafted, but for the teams to have a better idea what kind of player they're getting as well. But for right now, the NHL wants to leave it as it is. Obviously, it's a marquee event in the offseason. It draws a lot of attention. It's certainly a big offseason thing, generates some revenue on TV and everything. So I can understand why the league itself would be reluctant to push it. And hopefully these players have had an opportunity enough to showcase their talents. I know junior leagues across Canada are either starting to either get going or get back going. Hopefully be able to play at least a little bit further here and have a shortened season. So we'll see how NHL teams make out with their draft list. But for 2021, this NHL draft is not nearly as deep and powerful as we've seen in the last year or so. Like the 2020 draft was way more talented in my opinion. This group of 2021 draft eligible players, there are some good ones in there who could be real potential stars in the league, but not as deep as we saw past year as well. So I do wonder, because of that and because of everything going on with the lack of information on some of these players, if teams might be more willing than usual to trade first round picks when it comes to the NHL trade deadline, which is only just under a month away. Now, as I mentioned as well today, we also have some interesting names on the NHL waiver wire, including several from Canadian teams. The Winnipeg Jets have placed goaltender Anton Forsberg on waivers. Of course, this is not his first rodeo going on waivers this year. He has bounced around a little bit. Of course, the Jets were able to reclaim Eric Comrie some time ago. So obviously that makes Forsberg expendable. I would not be surprised if he ends up being claimed here yet again and going somewhere else as a number 3 goaltender on somebody's taxi squad. There's certainly a few teams out there that are looking to see what they can obtain, especially on the waiver wire, where it wouldn't cost them anything off their roster. So I would not be one bit surprised if Anton Forsberg ends up getting claimed. Now, we also have Columbus Blue Jackets forward Mikhail Grigorenko, of course, not having a fantastic season so far, has 7 points for the Blue Jackets after returning from playing over in Russia the past couple of years. The Blue Jackets are a team that's struggling, looking for some options, looking for some flexibility. They've been attempting to make trades from what we're hearing in the rumor mill as well. Certainly a few players that are out there that could be dealt. I've kind of seen Grigorenko's name before as likely being somebody who could be available, so it's not a huge surprise to find him here on waivers, but more than anything for the time being, they're likely looking for roster flexibility, which is one of the main things all these teams are looking for here. And because of the flat cap and not having a lot of teams really with a ton of options to be able to make a claim, they obviously can squeeze players through the waiver wire more than they have been able to do in the past. Now, Montreal and Toronto are still in the mix here as well. The Maple Leafs have placed forward Jimmy Vesey on waivers. Of course, the Jimmy Vesey experiment so far with the Leafs hasn't really done the best. He's had his moments where he has gotten a little bit streaky and scored a few goals at a time here. He does have 5 goals and 2 assists on the season for the Maple Leafs. But for the most part, I think it's fair to say Vesey's been fairly inconsistent, and the Leafs have been trying to juggle that bottom line, especially to a degree, the third line, to find the exact perfect mix here. Kyle Dubas also mentioned today as well during an interview, indicating that he would be liking to add a forward before the deadline, and he would be open to even trading a top prospect to make it happen. So obviously guys like Vesey and some of the other guys that are kind of going in and out of the lineup are interchangeable parts to a degree, trying to find the right mix, get the right guys going or be hot at the right time has proved to be somewhat difficult. Could Vesey be claimed? It's a real possibility. He's on a cheap contract, short term. You know, a team like Boston comes to mind. I know I was having some conversations on Twitter earlier about the possibility of the Bruins maybe making a claim. Not that he's going to certainly be an offensive superstar, but, you know, the Bruins have had interest in Vesey in the past. I don't know if there'll be interest today or not. I guess only time will tell. And, of course, we have the Montreal Canadiens as well. I've placed veteran Paul Byron on waivers. Now, of course, keep in mind this is not Byron's first go at the waiver wire this year, and you're going to probably see some repeat veterans go through it multiple times before the end of the regular season. Once they go through waivers and they clear, they can either play 10 games or 30 days, and then they have to go through it again to be able to move back and forth between the taxi squad and the NHL roster for the team to have more flexibility and juggle their lineup from game to game, which is certainly something that a lot of these teams have been doing. They've also been moving players to the taxi squad on off days to kind of save a little bit of cap space that way and cut back a little bit of a few dollars so they can save in that regard. So certainly, just a paper transaction for the most part. But could Paul Byron be claimed? It's a possibility. Last time this happened to him, I said it's a real possibility that I wouldn't be completely shocked. But given the fact that he makes a little bit more money than a guy like Anton Forsberg or Jimmy Vesey, so it's probably less likely. However, again, it would not be completely shocked here. I mean, he's a guy who can be a really good skater, good penalty killer, decent leader, a good character guy. He's been in and out of the Habs lineup to a degree, mostly playing on the fourth line when he's been in, but certainly somebody in Montreal probably would prefer not to lose, so they have that, more depth here in the forward position, but at the same time, they need to be able to move guys around, which is tough this year because of the taxi squad and all that, but we'll see what happens. But certainly some interesting names on the waiver wire that could find themselves wearing new uniforms as of noon Eastern time tomorrow. So let me know what your thoughts are on the 4 players on waivers. Will any of them be claimed? If so, where do you think makes a good logical destination? And of course, let me know your thoughts on the draft not changing and even the signing we saw in Chicago as well. We can discuss all that further down below in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.